Hi creatives, I am Dima and you're welcome to another interesting tutorial. This is a sewing tutorial. The pattern drafting of this top was in the last tutorial, but this tutorial will cover this gorgeous sleeve, this gorgeous twisted sleeve, and the sewing process of the pattern we drafted in the last tutorial, which I will link up in the description box. This is the conical part of this corset and this is the top that I copied for the conical part. Okay, the upper part is a Bustier Conical Corset with a yoke. So that is what we are going to do in the tutorial of today. That is putting all of this together, the structuring and everything that has to do with putting this gorgeous top together. So now I just had to go ahead and cut the lining pieces, and this is the yoke styling which we did in the last tutorial. I'm just trying to make a recap. You remember the tracing of this yoke. That is if you have seen that tutorial. If you haven't, just check the description and you see the link. Just the tracing of the yoke, one part of the yoke, and then I had to trace it out with my marker pen and cut it out, and then cut it on the tool net and all of that. All of this was covered in the last tutorial. You will want to see that video. Just check the link in the description and you will have it. So right now I am going to show you the whole process of applying interfacing and all of that on this cloth. So if you see, this is the back pattern and I applied hairstay. This is the lining piece and I'll be applying gum stay. You can see that on the neckline. If you like, you can also apply hairstay on the body of this lining with this at the neckline of this back lining. Okay, but I did not apply hairstay on the lining. I only applied on the fabric part. So now this is the front part of this bustier, and you can see how I cut the wording. Is light wording. Okay, you can see the shape, and from here I got 5.5, and from there is 1.5. Then I just connected it like this to the on the bust, and that is how I got that beautiful shape. And now this is the center front, and you can see how I cut the wording. It ended at the on the bust, and I tried to trim out about 1 inch from the start of the pattern, okay, so that it does not affect the neckline part. You can see how I avoided 1 inch. So what I put in on this lining is the wording with the peplum stay, light peplum stay on top of it. The light peplum stay is slightly smaller than the wording. Please take note of that. Okay, it's like inside the wording. I just want the bust to be a bit structured so that you can actually wear it without a bra. Okay, so that is the idea. Right now this is the wording, and you can see the light peplum as well, which will be placed, and you can see that it is smaller than the wording. Okay, it's like inside the wording, and you can see how I did not allow it to get to the armhole cut and all of that. Please pay close attention apart from what I am saying, and you will understand everything I did. So this is also hairstay that I applied on the fabric of this conical part of this cloth. And on the lining, what I did is to apply wadding and then light peplum stay. Okay, that is what I used, and it was so perfect. It was so perfect. Just watch closely to see what I did. This is the wording, and I am going to be trimming it up and down, 1 inch up, 1 inch down. It's cut exactly as the pattern, but I'll be trimming up 1 inch from up and 1 inch from down. But for the sides, I'm going to leave it like that because it's actually going to add structure to the hip area. So now this is the peplum stay, and I will not be trimming any part of this peplum stay. Please pay close attention and you understand everything I'm going to do in this tutorial. Okay, it's loaded, and it actually includes a whole lot that you will be learning from. So this is the wording, and this is what I mean by trimming off 1 inch from the upper side and then another 1 inch from the lower side. Now this is to reduce bulk above and below, okay, around the hemline and also around the waistline. But for the peplum stay, I did not trim anything. And watch the hip area, I did not trim anything because it's going to add structure to that hip. So that is why I did not trim it. Okay, it's just the upper and the lower side. That is the hem area and the waist area. Okay, that is where I trimmed, and this is the lining that I applied the peplum stay on with the wadding. Okay, so right now you can see what I have here. I have actually applied it on it, and you can see what it looks like. Look closely. I hope you can see what I did there. You can see that the wadding is, shorter than the peplum stay. The peplum stay is exactly the size of that conical part. Okay, now you can see everything I did on this upper bustier. What I did is just to use iron and just gum everything where it is supposed to be. This is just what I showed you earlier, but I used my iron to just glue it in place. So this is just it. So I'll go ahead and start joining it together. Okay, and I'll show you every bit of the process of doing this. So right now, this is hairstay that I applied. I've shown you all of this before. Hairstay, and on the neckline of the back I applied the gum stay. Okay, and you can see my notches and all very prominent, because I don't like joining clothes and not being very sure of where the seam line is. Yeah, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to join it like this, observing my notches, the under bust notch, the bust point notch, and every necessary notch that should be observed. And I will stitch my dart here, stitch there, and then go ahead to join all of that conical part together. Okay, so this is the notch that I put earlier for the front dart, because without this notch it is very hard to match this with the upper bustier. Now that is why I notched it from when I placed the pattern on it to cut it out. Okay, so this is what I have, and this is the yoke pattern, and I'm so excited to be putting all of this together with you. Okay, so right now this is the one side of the yoke. One side is like this and the second side has this multiple like this. You can see that I've joined this other multiple parts, and I'm going to show you what I did. So watch closely. You can see that I used bias to turn it separately, and then I placed this slimmer one on top of the bolder one and stitched it on. That is all I did there. Okay, and I did the same thing for this one as well. So that is just it. I just used bias to turn those parts and then placed it on top of each other, the slimmer one on top of the wider one, and then I stitched it together. I'll just go ahead and stitch the shoulder line with 1 inch instead of half. That was the seam allowance. This is because of the stretch that we get from tulle. Okay, so that this will match perfectly. So I'm trimming off the 1/2 inch and leaving us the remaining half. Now my seam allowance there is half, but what I used to stitch it is 1. Take note of this. Okay, now I'm going to turn all of that with bias, and this is what I did here. I've turned it with bias, and this is how it came out. So lovely. Yes, so we'll go ahead. You can see that the back part is longer than the front part. Okay, it's not the same. The yoke is not the same length because the back is actually deeper than the neck than the front. Okay, along the neckline. So I'm going to do the same thing for the second side of this yoke. So I'm going to place it like this and then stitch it. Ensure that it matches thoroughly. This is what I'm checking here before I stitch, so that you don't place the back part of the yoke towards the front. You know that this is not like the same on the back and the front, so please do well to check this. I did the same for this shoulder line. I had to take 1 inch instead of half, just to take care of stretch. I'll also trim 1/2 inch here because I did the same for the other part. Okay, I'll trim it before I turn with bias, because I don't want the tulle to get so close to the end of the shoulder. That is all. But if you want, you can still leave the 1/2 inch. It doesn't matter. So this is what I have, and you can see that the yoke for both sides, for the back it is longer. There's slight change in color here because I'm using natural light right now to film, and that is why there is change in color. So right now you can see the bustier part which I have joined together. That is the lining part, and this is the fabric. I have stitched the dart, my dart. You can see what it looks like. and you can see the front part of the bustier, which I have stitched. I will just go ahead and fix the yoke, and I have to match it really nicely and ensure that it is the way it is supposed to be, okay, before I stitch it down. Please ensure that you do this as well. So I'm going to use my pin and pin it down thoroughly before I stitch down. If possible, pin it and check what it is giving you before you go ahead and stitch. Very, very important, so that you don't do double work. Okay, I don't like it, right? It's not good to repeat or keep losing and stitching. Instead, it's better you do like a sort of basting or pin down and then check out what you have before you go ahead and stitch. Please, this is a sewing tip and it helps so that you don't go ahead, you know, stitching and losing and stitching and losing and all of that. Okay, so right now I will go ahead and stitch it, because after checking it, I feel it gave me what I wanted. This one I felt like I needed to push it and, you know, place it thoroughly. Okay, so right now I have stitched it down and this is what I have already, and I will go ahead and trim any little excess or anything that is not balanced there. I'll just trim it away and then place the back. Do the same thing that I did for the yoke of the front. Place it and check it out and ensure that it is exactly what I wanted it to be. And then after that, I'll pin it down and stitch so that I get perfectly what I need or what I have in mind. So this is what I have, and yeah, just pin it down. It's supposed to get to the zipper allowance. So I started from the zipper allowance and pinned the first one, and then I will match up the second one and pin it down. That is just what I am doing here. I will just go ahead and stitch it after all of that and turn it with the lining. Okay, so at every stage, ensure that you are doing exactly what you're supposed to do so that you don't make mistakes that will make you to start losing and stitching again. Okay, it can ruin your fabric, you know. So after doing this, I am going to place my lining just as you can see me do and pin it down as well appropriately. Okay, ensuring that the middle matches with the middle and all of that. And I will do the same for the back, so that I'll just stitch everything together. When I stitch, I notch and then I top stitch. If you're familiar with this channel, you will know that is how I stitch. I'll stitch, I notch, then I top stitch, then you iron and make sure that everything is flat the way it is supposed to be. Okay, so I'll go ahead and stitch that and then show you what I have. So here I've stitched it down. As you can see how lovely it's looking. Just go ahead and iron it as well at this stage. Now the next thing to do is to, you know, join it lining to lining like this, and then fabric to fabric. Okay, I mean, I don't want any rough seam to be showing on the inside. That is what I mean by lining to lining. Now you can see what I mean. And then after joining this part, the next thing to do is to go ahead and start working on the conical part of the corset. That is the lower part of the corset. Okay, and here it is. I have stitched the darts and also joined the sides. You can see what it looks like. Now this is the, you know, fabric itself. I'll go ahead and just do the styling for the waist. Before you do this styling, ensure that you position it so well and pin it down where necessary so that nothing moves. Then you cut the shape of your conical the way you want it. Okay, feel free to choose any shape that you please. So but what I copied somewhat is the picture that I showed earlier, which I can still show here. Yeah, so that is what I tried to copy, and then I had to cut it like this. Okay, now this I have cut for the front and the back already, just as you can see. Please pin all of this before you even cut so that your work will just be steady. Please, that is the right thing to do. So after doing all of this, I will now bring out the lining. You can see what the lining looks like. I've gone ahead to join all of that, and you can see I have applied the wadding with the peplum stay, and this is what it gave me. You can see the side. I'm going to iron it and apply hair stay to just keep all of that in place. So you can see what I have. I've used my hairstay to hold it in place. I did not trim any seam. Yes, it's on purpose because I want that place to have structure. I want that hip line to have structure. That is why I did not trim any parts. Okay, so that is what you're going to do. And then I will also open up this fabric part, iron it open, and also use hairstay to hold it. Okay, watch how I am angling this thing. Watch how I'm cutting this thing out. Then I notched. Okay, I did the same thing here. I angled it out and I notched. I'm going to go ahead and iron and then use hairstay to hold this thing down. Yes, just as I did for the lining. I've gone ahead to do that, and then the next thing is to go ahead and put my lining to this fabric. Okay, now placing it right sides facing each other, I placed it like this, and I'll go ahead and pin it thoroughly the way it's supposed to be so that it does not move. So when I do that, I am going to then stitch the hemline. I'm not going to cut this lining. Okay, I don't want to cut it. I just want, what I just did is to pin it down and then stitch it down. It's after stitching that I started cutting all of this so that I will be able to get rid of every excess. Okay, I didn't want to just make mistake, right? So this is the right thing to do. Please do this so that you will not make any mistake, because the two sides are not the same. So if you go ahead and do another method, I don't know, you may make a mistake that may ruin the whole process and make you start afresh. So please do exactly the steps that I'm taking and you will not regret it. So right now, this is what I have. I'm just here checking the balance in the, is unequal, right? You can see how it is appearing at the zipper area. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I think it's fine, so I had to just go ahead with the whole process. I feel it's okay. So right now I removed my pins and I will turn it inside out. Now I am going to join it lining to lining and fabric to fabric after top stitching. Okay, so I have notched that hem and I top stitched. I like top stitching. Top stitching has a way of making everything balance up. You can see the conical part. Please, I explained in the pattern making, if you want your own to be wider, of course you can add to the hip so that it will appear wider, but I'm just okay with this, and that is why I did not bother to add any extra. So what I did here is to just join lining to lining and fabric to fabric, and you can see what it looks like everywhere neat, inside and out. So this is what I want to achieve. So I'll go ahead and put my zipper. My zipper will still be inside, like in between the lining and the fabric. I don't just want anything to come outside. I just want everything to appear very clean except for the sleeve area. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do all of that, and then we will now be moving over to the sleeve pattern after all of that. Okay, so you can see what I have here. This is the bustier and this is the conical part of the corset, and that is the yoke and all of that. You can see what it looks like, and here I had to measure again. That is 6.5. That is what we got from the pattern making. Okay, so because I'll be using it for the sleeve pattern, so the next thing I'm going to do is to trace my sleeve to the length that I want it. Okay, I used 12 inches and that is what I marked there, and I will just draw a horizontal line. Now that is a basic sleeve, okay, that I made with the back sleeve pattern. Okay, so right now I am going to, if you want, you can take your straight like this, but I just dropped mine like 1 inch or 3/4 inch from that straight line so that I get a slight curve. That is how I want it, right? You can make your own straight there. Okay, so now you also take the round sleeve at that 12 inches level and mark it. Okay, just add 1 inch to the half of that circumference measurement. Okay, if you get 14, just make it 15 so that the sleeve will not be tight there. So having done that, you can see what I have. I'll just go ahead and cut it out. What I wrote there is actually the width of that cold shoulder. That's how wide that place will be. You can see how I took that 6.5 from the cap of the sleeve at the beginning of all of this. Okay, I hope you understand. So right now I am going ahead to place the sleeve like this just to ensure that it's the same thing. You can see the seam allowance there, and this is what I'll be using to twist for the twisted part of the sleeve. I'm just marking the wrong side so that I don't make mistake while sewing it together. So I'll also cut out the black, this black doll face satin. Okay, it's actually on a straight grain, it's not on a cross grain or bias grain. Okay, everything is on a straight grain. So now I have to hold it like this and stitch it down with 1/2 inch. Okay, that is what I'm going to do with all of this. Okay, I'll show you the dimensions before I go ahead to put it together. So when I measured like this is almost 46 inches, and like this is 4 inches. So that is the dimension that I used for this twist part of the sleeve. Now this is the sleeve, and I'll just go ahead and stitch the hem and the upper part. But before I stitch the upper part, I'm going to apply interfacing. I'm actually going to close up that upper part first before the lower side. So here I've stitched down the upper part, notched and top stitched, and you can see the extra at the hem for the lining. So I just had to trim it off first. Then I'm going to reduce this by 1/2 inch. Now the idea is to ensure that the lining for no reason comes out, okay, or supersedes the main fabric in length. I hope you understand. So I'll go ahead and trim again the excess. Like, this excess always comes out, so you now trim 1/2 inch. Okay, then we'll flip it over like this and stitch down. So do the same thing for the other fabric. You can see the interfacing I applied there on the lining. So you can see how we flipped it up a bit. The lining flipped up the fabric a bit because of what I trimmed. I'll go ahead and close up that sleeve. Now this is what I have. I've joined all of this with 1/2 inch, and I'm going ahead to trim every excess seam allowance. Now this is the right thing to do to reduce bulk. I measured 3.5 inches there, and I am cutting it out along this wadding. This is wadding. I actually used wadding to fill up this twist part of this fabric. Okay, so I cut out 4 pieces like this because I need 4 pieces. Now, not at the exact length of 46 inches for the fabric, no. So I have to use my safety pin and turn all of this fabric inside out. That is the first thing to do. Turn all of this fabric inside out, all of it. After turning it inside out, you now be passing your wadding through it. Just watch and you see what I did. Now I had to roll up my wadding like this. So roll yours like this, okay? Then push the safety pin through it, and then push it through the hole of this fabric that we just turned inside out. So as you're pushing, you are arranging your wadding to enter in that circular form into the space. Do that for every one of it, every of this strip, okay? So this is what I got. I'm going to stitch one side. You can see how I laid one on top of the other and stitched it at that beginning part. I just had to use the screwdriver to just hold it in place, and then watch how I am twisting. Okay, I am twisting this, twisting the fabric and twisting it along. Just watch closely. You see that it's not like a regular just twisting on top. I do as if I'm twisting the fabric as well before I twist it on top of each other, right? So that the twist will really be beautiful. So this is what I got, and I'm going to stack that part. I'm going to tack it, okay, so that everything will be steady for me before I put it to the cold shoulder sleeve. So this is what it looked like, and this is my cold shoulder sleeve. I'll go ahead and tack it. I used hand though. I used my needle and thread to tack one end of this twist as first. So when I tack it, I now go to this second end. I have held that edge. That is why it is not on twisting, right? So for this part, I'm going to hold it down and like tack it down. I'm not tacking it to the cold shoulder sleeve. I'm tacking the two twists together at that point. That is exact measurements of what I want, okay? I had to tack it and cut it. You can see it now. It's not tacked to the sleeve yet at that end, you can see. So what I did now is I held them together so that this does not untwist as I cut it to that length that I want. Now I have to open it up and remove the wording so that the wording will not get to this tip, okay? Now that is the right thing to do. I had to bring it out like this and cut out the wording, okay? So when I do that, I'm now going to place it just like the other edge, is now up, appearing like the other side of this twist. So I will now stitch it down with my machine, and then I'll go ahead and attach it to the top. And when I did, this is what it looks like it came out so gorgeous. I'll just go ahead and do the same thing for the second part of this top, and trust me, this top came out so nice. Guys, if you've not subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for at this point? We have lots to learn together. So after all of that, this is what I got, and I love it. I'll see you in my next one.